Hello and welcome to Earth Analyst. Tonight we will be drifting into what was Earth like during the Jurassic Period. Sit back and relax so I can take you on a gentle ride where nothing else matters. The Jurassic Period was a time when Earth looked vastly different from the world we know today, a sweeping era of warmth, growth, and giants that lasted from about 201 to 145 million years ago, a span of more than 50 million years during which the continents were drifting apart, the oceans were widening, and life was unfolding in spectacular new directions, creating a planet that pulsed with energy and vitality, a world where the air was heavy with humidity, where forests towered into the sky, and where enormous creatures moved across landscapes that seemed endless. For this was the golden middle chapter of the Mesozoic era, an age that not only belonged to dinosaurs, but also to forests, to oceans, and to evolutionary experiments that would shape the path of life forever. And if one could stand in the Jurassic and gaze around, they would find themselves in a warm greenhouse world with no polar ice caps, where even the far north and south were lush and green, where temperatures stayed mild year-round, and where rainfall nourished vast wetlands, rivers, and fertile valleys, producing thick vegetation that blanketed much of the land, with towering conifers like araucarias rising high above, cycads sprouting in great clusters, ferns carpeting the forest floors, and ginkgo trees spreading their fan-shaped leaves under the sun, creating a dense canopy that would shelter insects, reptiles, and herds of giant dinosaurs who fed endlessly on the greenery, their enormous bodies requiring tons of food each day. And among these plant-eating titans were sauropods such as Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, and the towering Brachiosaurus, whose long necks could sweep from ground to treetop, allowing them to feed in places no other animal could reach, shaking the earth beneath their heavy footsteps as they traveled in herds for protection, while nearby predatory hunters such as Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, and Megalosaurus prowled the forests and plains, their sharp teeth and claws making them apex predators, always searching for opportunities to strike at the young, the weak, or the unguarded, turning the Jurassic landscapes into a theater of survival, power, and balance. For even the giants were vulnerable when nature's most skilled hunters drew near. Yet this world was not only about the land, for the seas of the Jurassic were equally alive. Vast blue realms stretching across newly formed shallow oceans, where immense marine reptiles such as plesiosaurs with long necks and broad fins, and ichthyosaurs shaped like dolphins but much larger, hunted schools of fish, ammonites, and squid-like creatures, while giant crocodile-like thalattosogens lurked near the coasts, reminding us that danger lay in every corner of this prehistoric Earth. And these seas were dotted with reefs built by sponges and mollusks, buzzing with life from corals to crustaceans, forming ecosystems as complex and thriving as any forest on land. And above it all, the skies came alive with flying reptiles known as pterosaurs, leathery-winged rulers of the air who soared over forests, coastlines, and lagoons, their wings catching the warm air currents rising from the ground, allowing them to glide effortlessly across vast distances, some no larger than modern birds, while others, like the giant Dimorphodon, cast shadows across the land below. But in these skies, something new was stirring. For the Jurassic was also the age of the first true birds, most famously Archaeopteryx, a small feathered creature with wings, claws, and a toothed beak, bridging the gap between dinosaurs and modern birds, proving that evolution was experimenting with flight, with feathers, with speed, and with survival in new forms. And this evolutionary leap marked one of the most important transitions in the history of life, a step that would ultimately lead to the birds that still fill our skies today. Yet, while life was thriving on every front, the planet itself was in motion, for the supercontinent Pangaea, which once bound all land together, was breaking apart, splitting into two massive landmasses, Laurasia in the north and Gondwana in the south, reshaping the face of Earth and giving rise to new coastlines, shallow seas, and isolated habitats where species could evolve in unique ways, fueling biodiversity as never before. And this tectonic activity also brought volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and the release of gases that thickened the greenhouse atmosphere, keeping the climate warm and steady, ensuring that polar regions remained green and ice-free, and that deserts, once dominant in the Triassic, were replaced by wetter climates, where forests could flourish, where rivers could carve valleys, and where swamps and lakes could host new communities of plants and animals, all while sediments accumulated in these waters, preserving bones, shells, and traces of life that would one day tell scientists the story of this magnificent era. And within these ecosystems, intricate food chains developed, linking plants to herbivores, herbivores to carnivores, and all to the decomposers that recycled life's energy back into the soil, making the Jurassic one of the most balanced and fertile times in Earth's history. A time when evolution pushed boundaries, when ecosystems expanded across continents, and when life seemed unstoppable in its march toward diversity and dominance. And though the Jurassic would eventually give way to the Cretaceous, with new species rising and others fading, its legacy remains etched into the rocks, the fossils, and the very imagination of humankind. For when we think of dinosaurs, of ancient forests, of flying reptiles and marine leviathans, it is the Jurassic we often picture, a world vibrant, untamed, and alive, a living planet teeming with creatures beyond imagination. A reminder that Earth was once far different, yet always magnificent in its endless capacity for life. The warm greenhouse world. During the Jurassic Period, the Earth was locked in a warm greenhouse climate with no permanent ice caps at the poles, allowing forests to grow even at high latitudes, making the world lush and green across nearly every continent, and the temperatures stayed mild year-round, creating a humid environment that supported swamps, rivers, and fertile valleys where vegetation thrived in abundance, and rainfall patterns fed the spread of dense forests. So deserts that once dominated in the Triassic became fewer and smaller, giving way to ecosystems filled with plants and life, where the air was heavy with warmth and moisture, helping giant creatures survive and reproduce. And this greenhouse climate was fueled by volcanic activity and tectonic shifts that released greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, intensifying the warmth, yet balancing it in a way that encouraged growth rather than destruction. And it was this warm, stable climate that gave dinosaurs and plants the chance to dominate so effectively, for it allowed massive bodies to function and endless greenery to replenish itself year after year. making the Jurassic world one of nature's greatest thriving chapters. Where abundance defined existence, the age of giant dinosaurs, the Jurassic, is often remembered as the golden age of giant dinosaurs, where enormous sauropods such as Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and Apatosaurus walked in great herds across open landscapes, shaking the ground with their colossal steps, feeding endlessly on the towering trees that grew across fertile plains, their long necks allowing them to sweep from the ground to the treetops in search of nourishment. And they were not alone, for armored dinosaurs such as Stegosaurus thrived with plates and spikes that provided both defense and display, while hunters like Allosaurus lurked in the shadows, swift and deadly apex predators with sharp claws and teeth designed to tear flesh, making them fearsome rulers of the food chain. And these creatures created dynamic ecosystems where predator and prey kept balance in motion, where survival was a constant game of strategy, strength, and adaptation. And the sheer scale of these dinosaurs was unlike anything that had come before, leaving behind fossil evidence that still inspires awe today. For this was the true age of giants. Forests of the Jurassic. The landscapes of the Jurassic were filled with vast forests that seemed endless in their green expanse, dominated by tall conifers such as araucarias that towered above, cycads that clustered thickly, ferns carpeting the ground, and ginkgo trees spreading their fan-shaped leaves across the canopy, while rivers wound through valleys feeding swampy lowlands, rich with plant life. And these forests were unlike modern ones, for flowering plants had not yet evolved, leaving the scenery dominated by ancient species that thrived in warm, humid conditions. And this greenery was the engine that fueled life in the Jurassic, providing endless food for sauropods and habitats for countless other creatures. And the dense forests acted as both sanctuary and battleground, where hunters stalked prey under the cover of shadows, and herds moved together for protection, shaping an ecosystem where every plant and creature played a vital role in the balance of survival. Oceans alive with monsters, the seas of the Jurassic were as dramatic and alive as the land, filled with immense marine reptiles that dominated the oceans in ways just as powerful as dinosaurs ruled the land, with plesiosaurs stretching their long necks to snatch prey, and crocodile-like thalattosuchians hunting along coasts and lagoons, turning the seas into arenas of survival and constant danger, while fish, ammonites, and squid-like cephalopods filled the waters in vast numbers, creating abundant food supplies that supported these apex predators. And reefs built by sponges and mollusks formed vibrant ecosystems buzzing with life, with crustaceans, mollusks, and small fish all playing their parts in the balance of the oceans. And just as on land, these food chains were intricate and stable, ensuring that life thrived across every level of the seas. And the oceans became places where evolution experimented with speed, size, and adaptation, producing some of the most extraordinary, catching warm air currents that allowed them to glide for miles with little effort. Some species no larger than modern birds, while others spanned the width of small plains, dominating the skies in dramatic displays of power and grace. But in this same period, something even more remarkable appeared. The first true birds, with Archaeopteryx being the most famous example. a small feathered creature that blurred the line between reptile and bird, with wings, claws, feathers, and a toothed beak, representing one of evolution's most daring experiments. And its presence showed how flight was diversifying, branching into new forms that would eventually give rise to the countless bird species that fill our skies today, making the Jurassic skies a realm of both ancient power and new beginnings, a stage where evolution's creativity spread its wings. Breaking of the supercontinent. Entering the Jurassic, Earth's land masses were undergoing a dramatic transformation as the great supercontinent Pangaea began to split apart. Coastlines carved new shallow seas and created isolated regions where species could evolve in unique and diverse ways, fueling biodiversity across the planet. And as the land drifted, volcanic activity surged, releasing gases that warmed the atmosphere further, keeping the climate stable and humid, while earthquakes and eruptions reminded life that Earth itself was alive and constantly shifting. And the breaking of Pangaea was not just a geological event, but a biological one, for it gave rise to new habitats, new migration routes, and new opportunities for evolution to take hold, making the Jurassic a time of dynamic change, where continents drifted apart like slow-moving giants across the face of the planet. The first true birds among the many evolutionary marvels of the Jurassic. The appearance of the first birds stands out as one of the most significant milestones in Earth's history, with Archaeopteryx leading the way, proving that dinosaurs and birds shared a close connection, flown with the ease of modern species. And their presence in the Jurassic skies marked a turning point as the world above became more than the domain of pterosaurs, but also the testing ground for a new lineage that would endure long after the age of dinosaurs ended, leaving behind a legacy that still soars today. Predators of the Jurassicta. Jurassic was not only a world of giants, but also a world of hunters. Fierce carnivorous dinosaurs, such as Allosaurus, Megalosaurus, and Ceratosaurus, that ruled the land as apex predators, relying on speed, power, and deadly precision to track down and kill prey, their sharp teeth and claws making them masters of survival. And their presence kept the massive herds of herbivores in check, balancing the ecosystem by maintaining the cycle of life and death. And these predators did not hunt alone, for some evidence suggests they may have cooperated in groups, much like wolves, using strategy as well as strength. And while their size was impressive, their adaptability was even more important, for they could hunt across forests, plains, and valleys, exploiting every opportunity that the rich Jurassic landscape provided. And these predators, though feared, were also essential, shaping the behavior of herbivores, driving evolution forward, and ensuring that the web of life remains strong and interconnected. Ecosystems in balance. What made the Jurassic such a thriving time was the balance of its ecosystems, where every creature, from the smallest insect to the largest sauropod, played a role in maintaining life's rhythm. And the food webs were intricate and stable, with plants providing endless nourishment for herbivores, who in turn fed the predators, while scavengers and decomposers recycled nutrients back into the soil, keeping forests rich and fertile. And this balance was possible because of the warm climate, the spread of vegetation, and the diversity of habitats created by shifting continents and expanding seas. And each environment, whether forest, swamp, coast, or ocean, worked as a system that supported countless forms of life, making the Jurassic one of the most fertile times in Earth's history, where evolution experimented freely and survival strategies flourished. And it was this interconnected web of life that allowed the giants of the age to thrive for millions of years in harmony with the planet itself. The legacy of the Jurassic, though the Jurassic eventually gave way to the Cretaceous, its legacy remains etched into stones, fossils, and the human imagination. For when we think of dinosaurs, of lush forests filled with giants, of marine reptiles gliding through ancient seas, and of winged creatures soaring across the skies, it is often the Jurassic world we picture, a planet alive with abundance and diversity. And the discoveries made from this period continue to reveal new insights about evolution, adaptation, and survival, reminding us of the resilience of life even in the face of constant change. And the Jurassic stands as a chapter where Earth was at its most vibrant, a world of giants, of experiments, of growth, and of balance, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape our understanding of history and our place within the story of life on this remarkable planet. The rise of sauropod herds. The Jurassic world was dominated by enormous sauropod dinosaurs, and one of their greatest survival strategies was moving in vast herds across the land, where dozens of long-necked giants would travel together in search of food, water, and safety, their colossal bodies shaking the ground with each step. And these herds were more than just feeding machines. They were communities that offered protection against predators. For an Allosaurus would think twice before attacking when surrounded by walls of giant tails and stamping feet, and sauropods thrived in this world of abundance, feeding endlessly on conifers, cycads, and ferns that flourished under the greenhouse climate, and their sheer size gave them an advantage. For few predators dared to attack fully grown adults, but they also needed to migrate constantly, consuming tons of vegetation daily and moving to new areas once resources grew scarce. The land they walked upon, the rule of Stegosaurus. Among the fascinating plant eaters of the Jurassic was the Stegosaurus, a creature instantly recognizable by the rows of bony plates rising along its back and the sharp spikes of its tail, a design that was both beautiful and deadly. And Stegosaurus roamed in groups across fertile plains, feeding on low-lying vegetation with its small, beak-like mouth. And while it lacked the towering size of sauropods, it compensated with formidable defenses, using its spiked tail, or gemiser, to strike predators with bone-shattering force, ensuring that even apex hunters like Allosaurus would hesitate before attacking. And the plates may have been used for display, to attract mates or intimidate rivals, or perhaps to regulate body temperature, showing how evolution shaped creatures in creative and multifunctional ways. And Stegosaurus stands as one of the most iconic symbols of the Jurassic, a reminder of the diversity and inventiveness of life in this age. The expanding coastlines as Pangaea broke apart during the Jurassic, coastlines stretched and multiplied, creating vast, shallow seas that lapped against the edges of the continents. And these regions became rich habitats for life, with lagoons, deltas, and coastal plains bursting with vegetation and teeming with animals. And marine reptiles flourished here, hunting fish in the shallows, while pterosaurs swooped down to snatch prey from the waves. And these coastal ecosystems were among the most biodiverse areas of the Jurassic world, where land and sea blended into one thriving environment, supporting food webs that connected forests, rivers, and oceans together. And the expanding coastlines also shaped climate patterns, as warm seas influenced rainfall and humidity, feeding the forests inland. And over millions of years, these shifting waters would lay down layers of sediment, preserving fossils that still reveal the beauty and abundance of Jurassic life to us today. Volcanoes and Earth's fire. The Jurassic was not only an age of life, but also an age of fire, as the tectonic breakup of Pangea-fueled volcanic eruptions across the globe, releasing plumes of ash and lava that reshaped landscapes and altered climates. And these eruptions added carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, enhancing the greenhouse effect that kept the Earth warm and humid. But they also created fertile soils, enriching the land with minerals that fed forests and plant life. And volcanoes were both destroyers and creators, at times devastating nearby ecosystems with ash clouds, but in the long run, fueling cycles of renewal. And their activity was closely tied to the drifting continents, for as land masses split, molten rock surged upward, carving new seafloors and mountains, making the Jurassic not only a biological wonder, but a geological spectacle. A world alive both on the surface and deep within. Insects of the Jurassic, though giants, capture our imagination. The Jurassic was also home to countless insects that played vital roles in ecosystems. From beetles and dragonflies buzzing above rivers, to primitive flies and early moths fluttering among the trees, forming essential links in the food chain, pollinating plants, decomposing organic matter, and serving as prey for reptiles, amphibians, and small dinosaurs, ferns, and conifers, carving niches for themselves in bark, soil, and leaves. And their presence helped balance the cycles of life, ensuring nutrients returned to the earth and predators had abundant food. And the Jurassic skies and forests would have been filled with their constant hum, a chorus of smaller lives that sustained the larger ones, reminding us that survival in this age was not only about giants, but about the smallest creatures who worked tirelessly in the background. Rivers, lakes, and wetlands. The Jurassic world was carved by winding rivers, vast lakes, and humid wetlands that stretched across fertile valleys, becoming lifelines for countless creatures, where herds of sauropods would gather to drink, where predators would wait in ambush, and where lush vegetation thrived along the water's edge, creating vibrant ecosystems filled with fish, amphibians, insects, and reptiles. And wetlands were especially important, acting as nurseries for life, where young dinosaurs could find food and protection. And these watery landscapes also served as natural highways, guiding the migrations of herds and shaping the movements of predators. And as rivers flowed, they carried sediments that preserved the footprints, bones, and remains of creatures, leaving behind fossils that today paint vivid pictures of Jurassic life, making rivers and lakes not only essential to survival then, but also to our understanding now, for they captured moments of history within their muddy beds, the role of small dinosaurs while massive sauropods and fearsome predators steal the spotlight. The Jurassic was also home to many small dinosaurs that filled critical roles in ecosystems, from nimble ornithopods that darted through forests to feathered theropods that scurried across the ground, feeding on insects and small animals. And these creatures were fast, alert, and adaptable, surviving where giants could not, hiding in dense vegetation and taking advantage of niches left open by the larger animals. And their size allowed them to reproduce quickly and recover from losses, ensuring that they played steady roles in maintaining the balance of life. And though their fossils are rarer and less dramatic than those of giants, they remind us that survival was not only about strength or size, but about adaptability, speed, and strategy. And many of these smaller dinosaurs would go on to give rise to later species that shaped the course of evolution, including the ancestors of modern birds. The growth of biodiversity. The Jurassic Period was marked by a dramatic expansion of biodiversity, fueled by the splitting continents, warm climates, and vast new habitats. And life responded by filling every available niche, from the depths of the oceans to the highest treetops, creating an explosion of species unlike anything seen before. And dinosaurs themselves diversified into countless forms, from massive long-necked giants to armored plant-eaters and swift predators, while reptiles spread across land, sea, and sky, and plants flourished in rich forests, providing the foundation for this expanding web of life. And as ecosystems became more complex, interactions between species shaped evolutionary paths, driving adaptations in teeth, claws, armor, and behavior, making the Jurassic a testing ground for survival strategies that would endure for millions of years. And this increase in biodiversity laid the foundation for even greater evolutionary leaps in the Cretaceous, ensuring that life's creativity knew no bounds. The early mammals, though overshadowed by dinosaurs, the Jurassic also saw the quiet rise of early mammals, small nocturnal creatures that survived in the shadows of giants, feeding on insects, seeds, and small prey. And their tiny size and secretive habits allowed them to avoid the dangers of the day, thriving in burrows, trees, and hidden places. And while they did not dominate the landscape, they were essential survivors, carrying forward traits such as warm-bloodedness, fur, and specialized teeth that would later give them an advantage. After the age of dinosaurs ended, and the Jurassic represents their early struggle, a time when mammals were not rulers but survivors, waiting patiently for their chance to rise. And though they were overlooked in their time, their presence shaped the future of life, ensuring that even in an age of giants, the seeds of tomorrow's rulers were quietly growing stronger. Hidden in the shadows, the end of the Jurassic Period drew to a close. Earth was already preparing for the next great chapter, the Cretaceous, and though no mass extinction ended, the Jurassic gradual changes reshaped the world, with new species rising, older ones fading, and continents continuing their slow drift apart, creating new ecosystems and isolating populations that would evolve into entirely new forms. And life never stood still, for even in times of abundance, adaptation was constant, and the end of the Jurassic left behind not silence but transition, carrying forward the giants, the birds, the marine reptiles, and the plants into a world that would continue to evolve, grow, and change. And the legacy of the Jurassic lived on, setting the stage for even greater diversity and drama in the ages to come, leaving behind a fossil record that whispers the story of a planet that was once warm, green, and alive with unimaginable creatures. A reminder that change is the only constant in Earth's history. The roar of Allosaurus, the fiercest hunters. Of the Jurassic was Allosaurus, a powerful carnivore with razor-sharp teeth and claws that made it one of the most successful predators of its age, stalking the open plains and forests where herds of sauropods grazed. And unlike some predators, Allosaurus may have hunted in packs, working together to take down prey much larger than themselves. And their agility and speed gave them an advantage over slower giants, striking with ferocity when the moment was right. And their jaws, lined with serrated teeth, tore through flesh with brutal efficiency, ensuring they could feed on the massive bodies of their victims. And fossil evidence suggests they were adaptable hunters, thriving across different environments. And their dominance ensured that fear rippled through every herd of plant eaters, shaping behavior, migration, and survival strategies, making Allosaurus not only a predator but a force of nature, ruling the Jurassic landscapes with a roar that echoed across time. The mighty Brachiosaurus bruchiosaurus stood as one of the most iconic giants of the Jurassic, a creature so massive that its head rose higher than the treetops, feeding on leaves that no other animal could reach, and with its long neck and giraffe-like stance, it towered above the forests, using its size as protection against predators. For few would dare to challenge such a colossus, and its sheer bulk demanded constant feeding, consuming tons of vegetation daily to sustain its enormous body, and fossil footprints reveal the immense impact of its movements, shaping the land beneath its feet as it roamed in herds across fertile plains. And Brachiosaurus symbolized the abundance of the Jurassic, thriving in a world of endless greenery, and its survival was tied to the climate, forests, and balance of ecosystems, making it not just a giant, but a keystone of its environment, an animal whose presence defined the very landscapes it inhabited. The mystery of pterosaurs, the skies of the Jurassic were ruled by pterosaurs, fascinating flying reptiles whose leathery wings carried them across oceans, cliffs, and forests. And while some were small and delicate, others grew to astonishing sizes, with wingspans that dwarfed birds of today. And their diversity showed how evolution experimented with flight, producing species that hunted fish, scavenged carcasses, or soared on thermal currents for miles. And their hollow bones made them light yet strong, adapted perfectly for aerial life. And pterosaur fossils reveal incredible details about their anatomy, from crests on their heads that may have been used for mating displays to intricate wing membranes designed for control in the air. And their success lasted for millions of years, making them one of the most dominant groups of flying creatures in history. And though eventually overshadowed by birds, they left behind a legacy that still fascinates scientists and dreamers alike. The world without flowers, the Jurassic landscapes may have been lush and green, but they lacked one feature we associate with modern forests: flowering plants, for angiosperms had not yet evolved, leaving the scenery dominated by conifers, cycads, ferns, and ginkgo trees. And this meant that forests looked different, filled with needle-like leaves and fan-shaped foliage instead of colorful blooms, and insects lived in ecosystems that did not rely on flowers for pollination. Instead, who fed on tough conifer leaves and fern fronds rather than softer flowering plants. And yet, despite this, life thrived, building complex food chains that did not depend on flowers, showing that ecosystems can flourish in many forms. And when flowering plants finally appeared in the Cretaceous, they revolutionized life. But the Jurassic world remains a reminder of how vibrant life can be, even in the absence of modern floral beauty. The early crocodile ancestors' crocodiles today are survivors of a lineage that stretches back to the Jurassic, where their ancestors prowled rivers, lakes, and coastlines, sometimes growing to enormous sizes and adapting to a variety of habitats. And some were fully aquatic, living like marine reptiles, while others stayed close to the shore, ambushing prey at the water's edge, and their powerful jaws and armored bodies made them formidable hunters, able to take down creatures that came too close. And their adaptability allowed them to thrive alongside dinosaurs, sharing ecosystems without being overshadowed. And fossils reveal species that looked familiar, yet also strange, with features that blurred the line between crocodiles and other reptiles, showing how evolution shaped this resilient group. And their success in the Jurassic foreshadowed their survival through mass extinctions, proving that they were not only survivors but masters of adaptation in a world ruled by giants. The rise of ginkgo trees, known today as living fossils, were widespread in the Jurassic, their distinctive fan-shaped leaves spreading across forests that covered much of the continents. And these trees were hardy and adaptable, able to thrive in different soils and climates, making them one of the dominant plants of the age. And their presence supported countless herbivores, providing food and shelter in abundance. And their resilience is shown by the fact that they survived multiple extinctions, persisting into the modern world where they still grow today. And in the Jurassic, they would have been part of sprawling green canopies, mixing with cycads, conifers, and ferns to create dense forests. And their survival story is one of continuity, linking the Jurassic to our own time, showing that some forms of life are so perfectly adapted that they endure unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, bridging the gap between the past and present. Ammonites of the deep in the Jurassic oceans. Ammonites ruled as one of the most abundant and diverse groups of marine animals, their coiled shells spiraling in perfect patterns, housing soft-bodied creatures that thrived in shallow seas. And they were both predators and prey, hunting smaller animals while being hunted by marine reptiles and fish. And their shells grew in intricate designs, some smooth and simple, others ridged and ornate, reflecting the diversity of their kind. And they played an essential role in the food chain, providing nourishment for countless creatures. And their abundance makes them vital to scientists today, for their widespread fossils serve as markers for dating rocks and understanding Earth's history. And their beauty still fascinates collectors, showing how even the smallest forms of life in the Jurassic carried elegance, importance, and endurance, shaping the oceans as much as the giants shaped the land. The constant movement of continents. The Jurassic world was never still. 4 tectonic plates pushed continents apart, creating rift valleys, widening oceans, and raising new mountains. And this slow but unstoppable motion reshaped ecosystems, isolating some species while connecting others, fueling waves of evolution. across the globe, and the breakup of Pangaea was one of the most significant events of the era, splitting the supercontinent into Laurasia and Gondwana, and the oceans that formed between them changed climates, feeding moisture into the air and shaping rainfall across distant regions. And the earth beneath the surface was alive with energy, driving change that would continue long after the Jurassic ended. And this restless planet ensured that life had to adapt constantly, for coastlines shifted, mountains rose, and valleys flooded, reminding us that even in times of abundance, the Earth's own movements were always the greatest force of transformation. The role of climate stability. One reason life thrived so abundantly in the Jurassic was the relative stability of the climate. For unlike times of mass extinction driven by drastic shifts, the Jurassic enjoyed warm, steady conditions that lasted millions of years, creating predictable patterns of rainfall, vegetation growth, and resource availability. And this stability allowed giant animals to evolve and survive, for their massive bodies required consistency in food and water, and it also encouraged biodiversity, as ecosystems had time to expand, adapt, and diversify without being constantly disrupted. And this does not mean the era was without storms, droughts, or volcanic eruptions. But overall, the climate remained a greenhouse world that favored life's growth, and this balance between change and stability created one of the most fertile periods in Earth's history, showing how the planet's climate can either nurture or devastate life depending on its rhythm. The Jurassic in human imagination, though millions of years separate us from the Jurassic, its creatures and landscapes continue to live in human imagination, inspiring books, films, and dreams about a world dominated by giants. And it is the fossils of this period, massive bones, towering skeletons, and delicate impressions of plants that have brought the age to life for us, making the Jurassic one of the most famous chapters in Earth's story. And we picture long-necked sauropods walking through forests, Allosaurus hunting across open plains, and pterosaurs soaring in the skies, bringing the age vividly to mind. And our fascination is not only scientific, but also emotional. For the Jurassic represents a world both alien and familiar, a reminder of Earth's capacity for wonder and change. And by studying it, we learn not just about the past, ensuring that the Jurassic will forever remain a symbol of nature's grandeur. The roaming Diplodocus was one of the most iconic sauropods of the Jurassic, stretching over 80 feet in length with a whip-like tail that could be used as a defensive weapon, and its slender build and long neck allowed it to feed on low-lying plants as well as reach higher branches, making it versatile in its diet. And Diplodocus lived in herds, moving together across fertile plains in search of vegetation, leaving behind footprints that show the sheer size of their migrations. And its tail, perhaps capable of cracking like a whip, added both defense and communication to its abilities. And this long-bodied giant thrived in a world of abundance, relying on the stability of the climate and the richness of the forests. And its fossils remain among the most complete and striking ever discovered, symbolizing the grandeur of the Jurassic world, where size and adaptability gave life the opportunity to reach unimaginable extremes. Jurassic wetlands and swamps and wetlands during the Jurassic were cradles of life, buzzing with insects, croaking with amphibians, and filled with lush plants that grew thickly along muddy waters, creating perfect habitats for both small creatures and giants. And these wetlands provided food, water, and shelter for countless dinosaurs who ventured there to drink, forage, or hunt. And predators waited silently at the edges, ready to strike, as unsuspecting prey approached, while herds moved carefully, knowing danger lurked in the shadows, and amphibians thrived in these environments, continuing a lineage that stretched back hundreds of millions of years. And wetlands also played a crucial role in shaping the climate and ecosystems, storing water and feeding rivers that nourished the land. And as sediments accumulated in these marshy regions, fossils were preserved in rich detail, giving us vivid glimpses of life that thrived in these watery landscapes. The grace of plesiosaurs in the Jurassic seas. Plesiosaurs reigned with elegance and power, their long necks and paddle-like limbs allowing them to glide gracefully through the water, hunting fish and squid with precision, and their bodies were built for maneuverability, darting through the waves with fluid speed. And some species had short necks and massive heads designed for powerful bites, while others had elongated necks that stretched like serpents, striking quickly at unsuspecting prey. And they shared the oceans with ichthyosaurs and other marine reptiles, creating a dynamic world of competition and survival. And their fossils, often found in remarkable condition, reveal creatures of striking design, perfectly adapted to marine life. And their role in the food chain was vital, ensuring balance in the oceans. And plesiosaurs became symbols of the Jurassic seas, inspiring legends of sea serpents that echo in human imagination even today. The expanding deserts, though the Jurassic was largely warm and humid, deserts still existed, spreading across certain regions where rainfall was scarce. And these arid zones created harsh conditions that tested life, where only the toughest plants and animals could survive. And in these dry landscapes, dinosaurs adapted by traveling great distances in search of food and water, relying on herds for safety and endurance. And smaller reptiles thrived in burrows, hiding from the heat of the day, while predators learned to ambush near scarce watering holes. And though less lush than forests or wetlands, deserts still played an important role in Jurassic ecosystems, offering diversity in habitats, shaping evolution, and leaving behind fossil records in shifting sands. And these deserts remind us that even in times of abundance, the planet carried contrasts, with life adapting not only to plenty but also to scarcity, showing the resilience of creatures across every environment. The rise of cycads. Cycads were among the most dominant plants of the Jurassic, their palm-like forms rising across forests, plains, and valleys, feeding countless herbivores with their tough leaves and seeds. And they flourished in the greenhouse climate, spreading widely across the continents, becoming a vital part of the food chain. And sauropods in particular relied on cycads as a food source, stripping them in herds and ensuring their growth was constantly renewed. And cycads reproduced with cones rather than flowers, reflecting an ancient lineage that predated the appearance of flowering plants. And their resilience ensured they thrived even as climates shifted and ecosystems evolved. And though less common today, they were once among the most important plants on Earth, shaping the very landscapes of the Jurassic. And their survival into the present day makes them living reminders of a time when dinosaurs ruled the world. Jurassic seashells and reefs. The Jurassic oceans were decorated with reefs built not by corals as we know them today, but by sponges and mollusks, forming intricate ecosystems that bustled with fish, crustaceans, and other marine life, and seashells littered the shallow waters, belonging to countless species of bivalves, gastropods, and ammonites that thrived in warm coastal regions. And these shells were not only homes and defenses for their owners, but also key parts of the food chain, feeding predators from fish to marine reptiles. And the reefs created safe spaces for young creatures to grow, while also serving as natural barriers that shaped coastlines. And their beauty and diversity made the Jurassic oceans as alive and complex as any modern sea. And the fossils of shells and reefs today give us insight into how vibrant and full of energy the oceans once were, showing that life thrived in both the smallest and largest forms. Jurassic rainfall and storms. The warm climate of the Jurassic fueled heavy rainfall in many regions, feeding rivers and forests and creating fertile environments where plants could flourish. But with this rain also came storms, powerful systems that swept across the land and sea, shaping landscapes and ecosystems, and flooding valleys, altering rivers, and feeding wetlands. And these storms nourished forests, but also brought destruction, toppling trees and reshaping habitats. And in coastal regions, storms stirred the seas, impacting marine life and depositing sediments that would one day preserve fossils. And though dinosaurs and other creatures adapted to this cycle, the constant rhythm of wet and dry seasons guided their migrations, feeding patterns, and survival strategies. And rainfall was the lifeblood of the Jurassic, a cycle that connected sky, land, and ocean in a harmony that sustained the abundance of the age. The first feathered dinosaurs, before true birds soared in the skies. Some small dinosaurs began to develop feathers, not for flight, but for warmth, display, or camouflage, marking an evolutionary step that would change the future of life forever. And these feathered dinosaurs, such as small theropods, showed the deep connection between birds and dinosaurs, proving that feathers were not unique to avians, but part of a broader adaptation. And in the Jurassic, these feathers gave them advantages, protecting them from the elements, and perhaps helping them attract mates. And over time, feathers became more complex, paving the way for flight. And fossils from this period captured delicate impressions of feathers, preserving one of evolution's most remarkable innovations. And these small feathered creatures remind us that the Jurassic was not only about giants, but also about experiments in form and function. Experiments that still shape the skies today, the hidden mammal survivors amidst the thunder of dinosaurs. Small mammals survived quietly, often at night, living in burrows and trees, feeding on insects, seeds, and small prey, and their fur kept them warm in the humid nights, while their sharp teeth allowed them to exploit niches untouched by giants. And these creatures were tiny compared to dinosaurs, yet their survival strategies were powerful, for they reproduced quickly, adapted easily, and avoided direct competition with larger animals. And while they lived in the shadows, they were laying the foundation for future dominance, carrying forward traits that would one day allow mammals to thrive after the age of dinosaurs ended. And in the Jurassic, they were not rulers, but survivors, proving that even in a world of giants, smallness could be strength, resilience could be victory, and patience could be the key to a lasting legacy. The march toward the Cretaceous. As the Jurassic period reached its final chapters, the Earth continued to shift, with continents drifting farther apart, climates changing subtly, and ecosystems evolving into new forms. And though no single catastrophe ended the transitions paved the way for the Cretaceous, where flowering plants, new dinosaurs, and greater diversity would emerge. And some species of the Jurassic carried forward, adapting to new conditions, while others disappeared, leaving their bones in stone as a record of their existence. And the march toward the Cretaceous was not an end, but a transformation, a natural continuation of life's story, proving that evolution never rests, and the legacy of the Jurassic carried forward in every species that survived, in every plant that continued to grow, and in every ecosystem that evolved, making the end of the Jurassic not a final note, but a bridge into the next great act of Earth's history, the Jurassic skies. At night, when the sun set over the Jurassic world, darkness revealed a night sky untouched by city lights, filled with brilliant stars and constellations that shone far brighter than we see today. And under that celestial canopy, the Earth's creatures continued their activities, with nocturnal dinosaurs emerging to hunt and forage, insects buzzing and chirping in the warm air, and mammals scurrying from their burrows, taking advantage of the cover of night, and the calls of distant predators echoed under the moonlight, while forests glowed faintly with fireflies, creating a landscape alive even in darkness. And the silence of night was often broken by rustling leaves, snapping twigs, and the splash of water in rivers, revealing a hidden rhythm of life that thrived under the stars. And the night skies themselves, so vast and brilliant, were witnesses to the continuing story of evolution, stretching infinitely beyond the age of dinosaurs. The dominance of Allosaurus, the Jurassic Plains. Allosaurus was the undisputed apex predator, with powerful jaws filled with serrated teeth, long claws, and a strong body built for pursuit, ambush, and attack. And this carnivore hunted massive sauropods and smaller herbivores alike, using teamwork or opportunistic strikes to bring down prey. And evidence from fossils shows injuries and healed wounds that suggest these predators lived dangerous lives, constantly engaged in battles with other creatures. And their speed and intelligence made them highly effective hunters, ensuring their dominance across vast regions of land. And their reign represented the height of theropod power during the Jurassic, foreshadowing even larger predators that would follow in later ages. And in every way, Allosaurus symbolized the raw ferocity and strength of the age, the embodiment of predatory adaptation in a world of giants. The growth of fern forests. Fern forests covered vast stretches of the Jurassic landscape, thriving in warm, moist climates where their leafy fronds formed dense undergrowth and shaded ground, creating habitats for insects, small reptiles, and mammals. And these ferns, ancient plants with roots deep in Earth's history, spread widely across continents, forming essential food sources for many herbivores, especially smaller dinosaurs. And fern spores were carried easily by wind, ensuring their survival and dominance across changing environments. And their resilience made them some of the most important plants of the age, allowing them to flourish even in areas disturbed by storms, floods, or volcanic activity. And though overlooked compared to towering conifers or cycads, ferns were quiet architects of the Jurassic world, shaping ecosystems from the forest floor upward and leaving behind fossil imprints that reveal their delicate but enduring beauty. The Jurassic oceans in motion, the oceans of the Jurassic, were never still, constantly shifting with tides, waves, and undercurrents that shaped coastlines and stirred nutrients through the waters, creating ideal conditions for life to thrive. And these oceans were home to countless species, from tiny plankton drifting near the surface to massive predators patrolling the depths. And the circulation of warm water kept climates mild and stable, while storms churned the seas, reshaping habitats and scattering marine creatures. And in shallow regions, coral-like reefs and sponge gardens created havens for fish, crustaceans, and mollusks, while deeper zones held mysteries we can only imagine. And the oceans connected all continents, carrying life across distances, ensuring the spread of species, and anchoring the global ecosystem, making them as vital to the Jurassic world as the great forests and plains of the land. The adaptation of Stegosaurus, with its iconic plates rising along its back and spikes jutting from its tail, was one of the most recognizable dinosaurs of the Jurassic, and though it looked heavily armored, it was primarily a herbivore, feeding on low plants with a small head and beak-like mouth, and its plates may have been used for thermoregulation, display, or intimidation, while its tail spikes, known as the thagomizer, were deadly defensive weapons, capable of fending off predators like Allosaurus. And, despite its relatively small brain size, Stegosaurus thrived across regions of North America, adapting well to its environment and coexisting with massive sauropods. And its unique appearance continues to capture human imagination, reminding us of the incredible diversity of dinosaur forms during this period, where every adaptation told a story of survival, resilience, and the creativity of evolution. Jurassic rivers and valleys. Rivers flowed strongly through the Jurassic landscape, carving valleys and nourishing forests, creating fertile zones where plants thrived and animals gathered. And these waterways became lifelines for countless creatures, serving as travel routes for herds and hunting grounds for predators. And floods sometimes reshaped entire regions, leaving behind fresh sediment that preserved fossils in incredible detail, capturing the lives of creatures that once roamed the earth. And valleys formed along these rivers provided shelter, cooler temperatures, and diverse vegetation, making them prime habitats for dinosaurs of all sizes. And rivers connected the land to the sea, ensuring the exchange of nutrients and life across ecosystems, and their constant motion mirrored the cycle of life itself, carving, shaping, and sustaining a Jurassic world that pulsed with energy and growth. The mystery of Camarasaurus, one of the most common sauropods of the Jurassic, roamed in herds across fertile plains, with its massive body, long neck, and box-shaped head making it distinct among the giants. And it fed on plants with spoon-shaped teeth, leaving patterns of where that revealed details about its diet. And fossils of Camarasaurus are found frequently, showing it was widespread and successful, thriving in an age filled with competition. And its social behavior may have included herd protection of young, ensuring survival in a predator-filled landscape, and despite its size, it coexisted with other sauropods by adapting to different feeding heights, reducing competition for resources, and its presence in the fossil record tells us how diverse and specialized sauropods became, each carving out a niche in the Jurassic ecosystem and ensuring that giants could thrive together in balance. The role of insects and insects played a silent but vital role in the Jurassic world, buzzing through forests, swarming wetlands, and feeding countless reptiles, birds, and mammals. And their diversity was immense. From dragonflies with wide wingspans to beetles and ants forming complex colonies. And while flowering plants had not yet evolved, insects still thrived on ferns, cycads, and conifers, playing roles in decomposition and nutrient cycling, and their presence supported entire ecosystems, feeding amphibians, small reptiles, and mammals, while also serving as pollinators for early plant groups. And their survival through the Jurassic highlights the adaptability of these tiny creatures, whose resilience allowed them to outlast giants, mass extinctions, and endless shifts in climate, making them unsung heroes of prehistoric times, whose buzzing presence shaped the very foundations of life on Earth. Jurassic coastal landscapes, where land met sea in the Jurassic coastlines stretched wide with sandy beaches, rocky cliffs, and tidal flats, rich in life and constantly reshaped by waves and storms. And these coastal zones were home to crabs, mollusks, and small reptiles that thrived in the shifting mix of salt and fresh water. And predators often patrolled these areas, where food was abundant and opportunities for hunting were high, and nesting grounds for marine reptiles may have dotted sandy shores, echoing the habits of modern turtles, while plants adapted to the salty air grew along the edges, stabilizing dunes and providing habitats for insects and small creatures. And fossils found in ancient coastal sediments capture this dynamic environment, preserving shells, bones, and footprints that reveal a lively and changing ecosystem that connected ocean and land. The legacy of the Jurassic Period. The Jurassic was more than just an age of dinosaurs. It was a time when Earth's systems aligned to create a world of warmth, stability, and abundance, allowing life to flourish in ways both immense and subtle. And its legacy is written in the fossils, landscapes, and evolutionary leaps that emerged. From the rise of giant sauropods to the first feathers of future birds. And it shaped the planet's history as a bridge between earlier ages of struggle and later ages of innovation. And its story continues to inspire us today, showing the power of adaptation, the wonder of diversity, and the endless creativity of evolution. And the Jurassic reminds us that Earth itself is a living stage, where every era brings new actors, new scripts, and new transformations, all part of the ongoing drama of life that has played out for billions of years. The emergence of early birds. The Jurassic Period saw the first true steps toward flight, as feathered dinosaurs evolved into early birds, with Archaeopteryx standing as the most famous example, bridging the gap between reptile and bird. And this creature possessed wings with feathers strong enough for gliding, claws on its hands, and teeth in its jaws, marking it as a transitional form. And its discovery changed how we view the origins of flight. revealing that feathers first evolved for insulation or display before becoming tools for soaring. And these early birds likely lived in forests and near lakes, using their wings to escape predators or reach new feeding grounds, and their presence showed that the skies were no longer the sole domain of insects and pterosaurs, but were becoming a new frontier for evolution, opening the path toward the modern birds that now fill our world with song. Jurassic climate stability. One of the defining traits of the Jurassic was its relatively stable climate, warm and humid, with no polar ice caps and little seasonal variation. And this stability allowed plants to flourish year-round, creating constant food supplies for herbivores and supporting vast populations of dinosaurs and tropical conditions extended across much of the globe, with lush forests even in regions that today are dry or cold. And this lack of extreme temperature swings reduced stress on ecosystems, giving species room to expand and diversify, and the climate, shaped by high carbon dioxide levels and active volcanism, remained steady for millions of years, creating a golden age for biodiversity. And this consistency stands in contrast to earlier eras of climate chaos, showing how stability can nurture abundance and allow life to thrive on a scale unmatched in many other periods of Earth's history. The importance of cycads, with their palm-like appearance and tough, leathery leaves, were among the most dominant plants of the Jurassic, forming thick groves across warm regions, and they served as staple food sources for many herbivorous dinosaurs, particularly stegosaurs and smaller sauropods, and their seeds were protected within cones, ensuring survival in tough conditions, while their slow growth made them long-lasting members of forests, often surviving for centuries. And these plants were so successful that they became symbols of prehistoric vegetation, earning the nickname living fossils because some species still exist today, unchanged for millions of years. And their presence in the Jurassic reflects the adaptability of ancient plants, which built the foundation for ecosystems that supported giant dinosaurs, shaping not only the scenery but also the diets and behaviors of the animals that roamed these lush environments. The hunting tactics of pterosaurs dominated the skies of the Jurassic, with wingspans ranging from a few feet to over 20 feet. And their hunting tactics varied by species, with some skimming fish from the water, others scavenging along coasts, and still others hunting insects in midair. And their hollow bones and powerful muscles allowed them to soar gracefully for long distances, conserving energy while scanning for prey. And fossils revealed diversity in their beak shapes, showing adaptations for different diets, from sharp, toothy jaws to long, narrow bills. And though not dinosaurs, pterosaurs shared the skies and competed for resources with early birds, and their success in the air demonstrated the power of evolution to conquer every environment, with wings spreading life into a realm previously unreachable, ensuring that the Jurassic skies were as full of predators and competition as the land and sea. The social lives of sauropods. The giant sauropods of the Jurassic, like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus, may not have been solitary wanderers, but highly social creatures moving in herds, and fossil evidence of trackways suggests that they traveled together, young ones protected in the middle of groups, while adults guarded the flanks. And this social structure offered safety from predators and improved chances of survival. And herds may have migrated across great distances in search of food, leaving behind massive trails that shaped the landscape. And communication through deep rumbles or other sounds may have kept them connected across miles, allowing coordination, and this herd behavior reveals the complexity of their lives, showing that these giants were not only physically impressive, but also socially advanced, and their cooperation allowed them to dominate the Jurassic world, creating moving fortresses of life wherever they traveled. The Jurassic volcanic activity, volcanoes erupted frequently during the Jurassic, reshaping landscapes, releasing gases into the atmosphere, and fertilizing soils with rich minerals, and lava flows carved new terrain, while ash layers buried forests and creatures, later preserving fossils in incredible detail. And though destructive in the moment, volcanism also fueled the long-term fertility of ecosystems, making volcanic regions hotspots of growth. And the gases released into the air helped maintain the greenhouse climate that supported lush vegetation, while undersea volcanism expanded ocean floors, altering coastlines and influencing currents. And these constant eruptions remind us that Earth was always in motion, a dynamic planet where creation and destruction worked hand in hand, ensuring that every ecosystem, no matter how stable, was also shaped by fire and stone. Writing the Jurassic story across both land and sea in layers of ash and lava. The spread of mammals. Though dinosaurs ruled the Jurassic, mammals had already appeared, small, furry, and largely nocturnal. And while they remained in the shadows of giants, they survived by exploiting niches untouched by dinosaurs, feeding on insects, small reptiles, and plants. And their small size allowed them to hide easily and reproduce quickly, ensuring their persistence across millions of years. And fossil evidence shows early mammals with specialized teeth for grinding or slicing, revealing diets as diverse as their forms. And though limited in size, they were already adapting for survival, setting the stage for their eventual dominance after the extinction of the dinosaurs. And their presence in the Jurassic shows that even in an age of giants, the seeds of future rulers were already being planted, ready to take advantage when opportunity finally arrived. The predator-prey, with sauropods, stegosaurs, and ornithopods serving as massive sources of food for carnivores like Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus. And each interaction shaped behaviors, from herding in prey animals to hunting strategies in predators. And the arms race between defense and attack drove evolution, with herbivores developing armor, size, and herd tactics, while carnivores honed speed, intelligence, and deadly weaponry. And this balance maintained ecosystems, preventing either side from overwhelming the other, and it ensured constant innovation as every adaptation was met with a counter, keeping the world dynamic and ever-changing. And this predator-prey dance was the heartbeat of the Jurassic, fueling survival, diversity, and the ongoing story of life in a world where every day was a test of strength, wit, and endurance. The role of lakes in the Jurassic lakes dotted the Jurassic landscape. Calm waters surrounded by lush vegetation, attracting herds of herbivores and flocks of pterosaurs. And these freshwater havens provided drinking water, nesting grounds, and abundant food sources, while also becoming hotspots for predators seeking prey. And sediment at the bottoms of these lakes preserved countless fossils, capturing delicate details of fish, plants, insects, and even dinosaurs. And lakes played a critical role in balancing ecosystems, offering safe zones for breeding and migration stops for creatures on the move, and they mirrored the skies and forests, creating reflections of the Jurassic world that endured long after creatures vanished. And their calm beauty contrasted with the raw ferocity of life, reminding us that in every age, even the age of giants, there were quiet sanctuaries of water and stillness, shaping survival and memory alike. The enduring mystery of the Jurassic, despite all we know from fossils. Much of the Jurassic remains a mystery, with vast stretches of time still hidden beneath rock and earth. And every new discovery reveals surprising details, from feathered dinosaurs to unusual marine reptiles, reshaping our understanding of the age. And yet many questions remain. How did sauropods grow so large? How complex were their societies? What colors filled the skies and forests? And what songs or calls echoed through the night? And these unanswered mysteries keep the Jurassic alive in human imagination, driving science forward with each fossil uncovered, and reminding us that the past is never fully written, lives on, not only in stone, but in our search for knowledge, wonder, and connection to a world long gone yet forever, part of Earth's story. The rise of ornithopods. During the Jurassic, the ornithopods began their steady rise, small bipedal herbivores that were agile, fast, and capable of moving in herds for protection. And though not as massive as sauropods or as armored as stegosaurs, their adaptability made them successful survivors, and they grazed on ferns, cycads, and low-lying plants, using their beaks to crop vegetation with efficiency. And fossils reveal evidence of complex chewing surfaces in their teeth, suggesting advanced food processing for their size. And these creatures may have formed the early stages of social cooperation seen later in their descendants, the hadrosaurs. And their quickness and alertness made them hard targets for predators. And they filled ecological roles that ensured balance in the Jurassic environment, acting as the mid-tier herbivores that kept plant growth in check while feeding carnivores that hunted across the plains and forests. The Jurassic coral reef swarm, shallow seas of the Jurassic period supported coral reefs that rivaled modern ones, thriving ecosystems built by tiny coral organisms that created sprawling undersea cities. And these reefs provided shelter for countless marine animals, from small fish to crustaceans and even juvenile marine reptiles. And the biodiversity within them was immense, with predators, scavengers, and grazers all coexisting in a delicate balance. And the reefs acted as nurseries for life, safe havens where young creatures could grow before venturing into open waters. And fossils show that these reefs were widespread, dotting coastlines across the Tethys Ocean. And they reveal that even in a world dominated by giants, small-scale ecosystems flourished, building the hidden foundations of the ocean's richness. And their beauty and productivity helped shape the marine world of the Jurassic into one of abundance and complexity, the age of giants on land. The Jurassic period truly earned its place as the age of giants, for never before had land animals reached such colossal sizes, with sauropods stretching longer than modern airplanes and towering taller than buildings. and their sheer presence reshaped landscapes, stripping forests bare, trampling trails into plains, and influencing every creature around them. And their size was both a defense against predators and a necessity to process vast amounts of plant matter. And their lives were slow, steady, and enduring, lasting decades, perhaps even centuries. And this gigantism remains one of the greatest mysteries of evolution. As the physiology of these animals pushed the limits of what life on land could achieve, and yet they thrived, showing that Earth during the Jurassic was a world built to sustain giants in ways that cannot be easily repeated today. The first flowering plants, appearances, though the Jurassic is remembered for conifers and ferns. It also marked the quiet beginning of flowering plants, or angiosperms, which would later dominate Earth. And while not widespread, their earliest ancestors may have emerged in sheltered corners of the Jurassic world, evolving traits like enclosed seeds and colorful structures to attract pollinators. And though insects were not yet fully adapted for these plants, their coevolution would soon follow, sparking one of the greatest ecological revolutions in Earth's history. And the Jurassic laid the groundwork for this transformation, as plant experimentation with new forms of reproduction allowed survival in increasingly competitive ecosystems. And even though dinosaurs may not have noticed these small newcomers, the flowering plants that took root in this era would eventually alter the balance of life, reshaping landscapes forever. The migration patterns of dinosaurs' evidence from fossil trackways and bone beds suggests that many Jurassic dinosaurs were migratory, moving across vast distances in response to seasonal changes in food and water. And these migrations ensured survival for both herbivores and carnivores, as herds carried nutrients across ecosystems, and predators followed the moving feasts, and their paths carved trails into the earth, sometimes used for generations, leaving fossilized footprints that tell the story of their journeys. And these movements reveal a world where no place was truly static. As landscapes changed with the flow of life, and migration also fostered mixing of species, spreading genetic diversity and expanding ranges. And this dynamic mobility helped dinosaurs dominate the globe, adapting to the shifting continents and climates of the Jurassic, making the Earth a truly interconnected web of ecosystems, where survival meant movement and adaptation. The Jurassic oceans of plankton, though plankton are tiny, their role in the Jurassic oceans was enormous, forming the base of the marine food chain, feeding fish, ammonites, and eventually the marine reptiles that ruled the seas. And these microscopic organisms thrived in nutrient-rich waters, stirred by volcanic activity and shifting ocean currents. And their sheer abundance ensured that life in the oceans never lacked a foundation. And over time, plankton remains settled into ocean floors, forming limestone deposits that still shape landscapes today. And their quiet work of photosynthesis contributed to oxygen levels, supporting life across the planet. And though small and unseen, they were perhaps the most important organisms of the age, proving that the Jurassic was not only about the giants above, but also about the tiny architects of ecosystems below, holding the world together, grain by grain, drop by drop. The spread of conifer forest conifers dominated much of the Jurassic landscape. Towering trees with needle-like leaves and resin-filled bark resilient against drought and fire, and they created vast forests where herds of dinosaurs roamed beneath their canopies, feeding on their foliage or seeds. And these forests were central to the ecology of the Jurassic, providing shelter, shade, and food for countless creatures. And their deep roots stabilized soils, while their presence captured carbon dioxide and shaped the atmosphere. And fossils show that conifers grew across continents, adapting to various climates, and they became the backdrop of the dinosaur world, standing tall as silent witnesses to the drama of predator and prey, life and death, growth and decay. And their endurance, continuing into today's world, shows how plants, as much as animals, defined the age of the Jurassic. The communication of dinosaurs. Though fossils cannot preserve sound, scientists believe Jurassic dinosaurs communicated through calls, body displays, and vibrations, with some producing deep, resonant rumbles that could carry for miles, and crests, horns, and frills may have been used to amplify or signal during communication, whether for mating, warning, or coordinating herds. And visual displays like bright colors or feather patterns may have also conveyed meaning, though these are speculative. And such communication was crucial in a world filled with danger, where survival often depended on cooperation or intimidation, and the ability to send messages across distance helped dinosaurs control territories, attract mates, or organize group movement. And while we may never know their exact sounds, the echoes of their voices surely filled the Jurassic world, making it not just a landscape of silence, but a living chorus of calls and signals that defined daily life. The slow shift toward the Cretaceous, the Jurassic, drew to a close. Earth was slowly transitioning toward the Cretaceous, with continents continuing their drift, climates shifting, and ecosystems preparing for new waves of evolution. And some lineages that began in the Jurassic, like birds, mammals, and flowering plants, were laying the groundwork for the future, while others, like many giant sauropods, would decline in the coming ages. And though no single catastrophic event ended, the Jurassic gradual change reshaped the planet, turning lush swamps into drier lands and breaking apart habitats. And this slow transformation reminds us that Earth's story is always moving, never frozen in time. And the Jurassic, though vast, was but a chapter, a golden age that set the stage for what came next. And its ending was not an extinction, but an evolution, carrying life forward into new and uncharted worlds. The role of fire in Jurassic ecosystems. Fossil evidence shows that fire played a role in shaping Jurassic landscapes, as lightning strikes and volcanic activity could ignite conifer forests and spread flames across dry plains. And these fires cleared dense vegetation, allowing new growth to emerge, recycling nutrients back into the soil, and creating diverse habitats where different species could thrive. And though destructive, fire was also regenerative, paving the way for new plants to sprout and herbivores to graze. And many Jurassic plants evolved thick bark or fire-resistant traits to survive these periodic blazes, while some species even relied on fire to open their cones and release seeds, and animals adapted as well, with large herds migrating away from smoke or predators, using burned areas to their advantage. And these fiery cycles show that even in the Jurassic, natural forces sculpted life, keeping ecosystems dynamic and ever-changing. The evolution of flight. The Jurassic Period saw one of the most revolutionary transitions in Earth's history, the evolution of flight, with small feathered dinosaurs like Archaeopteryx taking to the skies, bridging the gap between reptiles and birds, and their lightweight bones, feathers, and adapted limbs allowed gliding and short bursts of powered flight. And though primitive compared to modern birds, they represent one of the most important evolutionary milestones, and flight opened new niches, from hunting insects in the air to escaping predators on the ground. And it allowed the spread of species across greater distances, shaping ecosystems from above. And this adaptation would eventually lead to one of Earth's most diverse groups of animals. But in the Jurassic, it was only the beginning. Fragile wings flapping in forests where giants roamed below, showing that even in the shadow of titans, small creatures were taking bold steps toward the skies. The Jurassic, lakes, and wetlands. Not all of the Jurassic world was dry forests and vast oceans. Many regions were covered with freshwater lakes, rivers, and sprawling wetlands, which became hotspots for biodiversity. And these calm waters nurtured amphibians, turtles, insects, and fish, while also drawing dinosaurs and other reptiles for drinking and hunting. And fossil evidence of ripple marks, mud cracks, and preserved fish bones reveal how abundant and important these habitats were. And wetlands served as breeding grounds, nurseries, and migration stops, creating cycles of life that echoed across landscapes. And these watery havens balanced the harsher, dry climates, providing stability for many species and their preservation. In the fossil record offers snapshots of Jurassic ecosystems frozen in time, showing that life thrived not only in grand oceans or towering forests, but also in the quiet shallows and muddy banks of lakes and marshes. That the Jurassic sky of the Jurassic Period was alive with more than just the first birds. It was dominated by pterosaurs, the flying reptiles that had already conquered the air long before birds appeared. And their wingspans ranged from small, crow-sized creatures to massive species stretching over 30 feet, and they soared over coastlines, rivers, and plains, feeding on fish, carrion, or small land animals. And their hollow bones and strong wing membranes gave them unmatched aerial abilities. And the skies were never empty, filled with the cries of pterosaurs, the flapping of feathered dinosaurs, and the drifting of insects carried by warm winds. And this aerial world was a frontier of constant movement, connecting ecosystems and spreading life across continents. And for the creatures on the ground, the sight of a shadow passing overhead could mean wonder or danger. For the Jurassic sky belonged to predators and pioneers alike, the dinosaurs. Nesting habits. Fossilized nests and eggs revealed that many dinosaurs in the Jurassic had complex reproductive behaviors, laying their eggs in carefully chosen locations, sometimes in communal nesting grounds. And these sites suggest a level of parental investment, with some species possibly guarding their nests or even caring for young after hatching. And eggs were often buried in sand or vegetation to regulate temperature, relying on natural incubation. And entire fossilized clutches have been found, showing that reproduction was seasonal and often synchronized with environmental cycles. And the survival of young dinosaurs was precarious, as predators, floods, and environmental shifts threatened them. But the sheer number of eggs laid ensured that enough would survive to adulthood. And these nesting habits give us a glimpse into the lives of dinosaurs beyond fossils of bones, revealing a world where family and reproduction shaped survival strategies. The Jurassic rivers, as highways flowing rivers of the Jurassic, acted as lifelines and highways through landscapes, carving valleys, feeding floodplains, and supporting lush vegetation along their banks. And animals followed these waters as migration routes. Predators stalked them for prey, and plants flourished where moisture was abundant. And fossil records along ancient riverbeds reveal footprints, bones, and even plants washed downstream, giving us preserved evidence of the creatures that once walked there. And rivers also connected ecosystems, carrying nutrients and sediments to lakes and seas, fueling growth across environments. And they were unpredictable too, with floods reshaping terrain and droughts threatening survival. But overall, rivers were central to life, binding land and water into a continuous chain of habitats. And in the Jurassic, as today, they were the arteries of the planet, sustaining the flow of existence for creatures great and small. The first true mammals in the Jurassic, though overshadowed by dinosaurs, the Jurassic period saw the emergence of the first true mammals, small nocturnal creatures that were agile, warm-blooded, and often insectivorous, living in the shadows of giants. And they developed advanced traits such as differentiated teeth, more efficient metabolism, and fur for insulation, giving them survival advantages in niches dinosaurs did not occupy. And fossils show that these early mammals were diverse, from burrowers to climbers, and their ability to live at night may have protected them from predators, carving out a world of survival in secrecy. And though they were small and insignificant compared to sauropods or pterosaurs, their presence marked a quiet revolution, setting the stage for mammals to eventually rise after the dinosaurs' decline. And their story reminds us that even in the Jurassic, greatness often began in the smallest of forms, hidden beneath the feet of giants. The predatory strategies of Jurassic hunters. The Jurassic world was filled with predators of all sizes, from massive allosaurs to smaller raptors, and each developed strategies suited to their prey and environment. And large predators may have hunted in ambush or pursued weakened individuals from herds, while smaller carnivores relied on speed, agility, and pack behavior to overwhelm targets. And evidence from tooth marks on bones, healed injuries, and fossilized trackways shows that predator-prey interactions were constant and dynamic. And survival often depended on cunning, stealth, and cooperation. And predators shaped the behavior of herbivores, pushing them into herds, migrations, or defensive adaptations like armor or spikes. And this eternal struggle defined the Jurassic ecosystem, ensuring that both predator and prey evolved together in a deadly dance where balance was maintained through the chase, the hunt, and the survival of the fittest. The Jurassic climate was not without its shifts, with periods of higher rainfall, drought, and even localized cooling events. And these changes influenced vegetation growth, migration routes, and survival strategies, and plants adapted by developing drought-resistant traits, while animals adjusted by moving into more favorable habitats. And fossils of plants and sediments reveal cycles of wet and dry seasons, which shaped ecosystems much like today. And volcanic activity also influenced climate, pumping gases into the atmosphere and altering weather patterns, and these shifts, though not catastrophic, served as reminders of Earth's constant motion, where no era was truly static, and survival required resilience, flexibility, and the ability to endure change. And in the Jurassic, prosperity and fluctuation created the conditions for life's flourishing across the globe. The Jurassic as a crucial evolutionary bridge. The Jurassic Period stands as a crucial evolutionary bridge in Earth's history, connecting the Triassic world of early dinosaurs to the Cretaceous age of flowering plants, advanced birds, and more specialized creatures. And during this time, ecosystems stabilized, biodiversity expanded, and evolutionary innovations flourished. From flight and gigantism to the earliest mammals, and it was a time of experimentation where life tested new strategies and forms, many of which would define the planet's future, and the Jurassic world's stability gave organisms the chance to thrive and adapt without sudden mass extinction events. And this period of growth set the foundation for the dramatic changes that would come later. And though often overshadowed by the cataclysmic end of the dinosaurs in the Cretaceous, the Jurassic remains a pivotal chapter where Earth truly transformed into a world of giants, pioneers, and endless possibility. The spread of conifer forests, conifer trees, dominated the Jurassic landscapes, rising tall and spreading wide, creating dense forests that became home to countless animals. Size, and these forests provided food, shelter, and shade, with their needles and cones adapted to warm climates and seasonal variations. And fallen logs and leaf litter created fertile ground for ferns, cycads, and smaller plants, building layered ecosystems teeming with life. And herbivorous dinosaurs grazed on lower vegetation, while giants like Brachiosaurus reached the tallest branches, keeping forests constantly pruned, and predators prowled these shaded corridors, where light filtered through pine-like canopies, creating a timeless prehistoric atmosphere. And these forests were not just habitats, but engines of oxygen production, fueling Earth's atmosphere. And today, their fossilized remnants offer windows into ancient worlds, showing how conifers shaped Jurassic life. The rise of marine reptiles while dinosaurs ruled the land. The seas of the Jurassic were dominated by marine reptiles, incredible predators like ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, and pliosaurs, which evolved into a variety of specialized hunters. And ichthyosaurs looked like dolphins, but were reptiles built for speed, hunting fish and squid, while plesiosaurs had long necks to snap at prey with stealth, and pliosaurs grew massive jaws capable of taking on almost anything in the water. And these reptiles filled the oceans with diversity and danger, creating a marine ecosystem as dynamic as the one on land, and fossils reveal stomach contents, showing exactly what they ate, proving they were apex predators of their time. And their streamlined bodies and adaptations highlight evolution's creativity, proving the Jurassic seas were no less extraordinary than its forests, with waves hiding giants of their own. The mystery of sauropod size, one of the greatest questions of the Jurassic, is how sauropods grew so large, reaching lengths over 100 feet and weights beyond 70 tons. And scientists believe their size was supported by efficient respiratory systems similar to birds, hollow bones that made their skeletons lighter, and digestive systems that could process vast amounts of plant material, and their size protected them from predators, allowing them to dominate landscapes without challenge, and they grew quickly, reaching enormous proportions in relatively short lifespans, showing that gigantism was an evolutionary advantage, and entire ecosystems may have revolved around their feeding patterns, as their appetite-shaped vegetation and nutrient cycles, and fossils of their footprints reveal the scale of these titans, each step sinking deep into ancient mud, reminding us of a time when the very ground trembled under their weight. A true wonder of the Jurassic world, the importance of fossilized amber, fossilized tree resin from Jurassic forests, has preserved some of the most delicate and detailed evidence of life from this period, capturing insects, plant material, and even feathers in perfect condition. And these tiny windows into the past reveal ecosystems at a micro level, showing the interactions of small creatures that rarely fossilize otherwise. And amber has preserved spiders, ants, beetles, and pollen, allowing scientists to reconstruct ancient forests with remarkable accuracy, and in some cases, tiny air bubbles trapped inside even hold samples of prehistoric atmosphere, a direct record of Earth's ancient air. And while dinosaurs dominate, popular images of the Jurassic amber shows that small life forms were just as diverse, complex, and important, building the foundation for larger ecosystems. And each golden drop is like a time capsule, carrying fragile stories across millions of years to be uncovered today. The sounds of the Jurassic world, though we can never know exactly what the Jurassic sounded like, scientists can make educated guesses by studying modern relatives of dinosaurs, the structure of fossilized bones, and preserved evidence of air passages, and the world may have been alive with deep bellows of sauropods, sharp calls of predators, and constant insect buzzing in forests. And pterosaurs might have screamed across the skies, while amphibians croaked from lakes, and mammals squeaked in the shadows, creating a chorus of life. And volcanic eruptions, thunderstorms, and rushing rivers added to the backdrop, making the Jurassic an orchestra of natural and biological sounds. And silence would have been rare, as ecosystems were teeming with activity, and imagining these sounds brings fossils to life, reminding us that the Jurassic was not just seen but heard, a living symphony of Earth's growing diversity. The role of volcanic islands scattered across Jurassic oceans were volcanic islands formed from eruptions beneath the sea, rising above the waves to create isolated ecosystems where life evolved differently. And these islands became laboratories of evolution, with unique plants, insects, and small reptiles developing adaptations unseen elsewhere. And pterosaurs likely nested on their cliffs, while marine reptiles patrolled surrounding waters, and volcanic ash enriched soils, allowing lush vegetation to thrive, creating green oases in endless blue seas. And these islands also served as stepping stones for migrating species, connecting larger landmasses over time. And their fossil evidence shows how isolation shaped evolution long before Charles Darwin studied island ecosystems. And the Jurassic proves that nature was experimenting across every scale, even on small pieces of land cast adrift in ancient oceans, each one a world of survival, adaptation, and unique beauty. The insects of the Jurassic forests were alive with buzzing, crawling, and flying insects, many of which looked surprisingly similar to modern species, such as beetles, dragonflies, and grasshoppers, which thrived in the warm climate, pollinating plants, feeding amphibians and small mammals, and shaping ecosystems in quiet but powerful ways. And dragonflies with wingspans larger than modern species zipped above wetlands, while beetles chewed through leaves, and termites worked within fallen wood, recycling nutrients back into the soil. And these insects formed the base of many food chains, supporting the rise of larger animals. And their interactions with plants pushed the evolution of both groups forward, creating early models of ecological balance. And while dinosaurs ruled the land, insects ruled the details, ensuring ecosystems ran smoothly, showing that in the Jurassic, survival depended on creatures both massive and minuscule. The shifting oceans of the Jurassic oceans in the Jurassic were constantly changing as continents drifted apart, widening seaways, raising coastlines, and flooding lowlands, creating shallow seas that became breeding grounds for marine life. And these warm, nutrient-rich waters supported coral reefs, shellfish, ammonites, and marine reptiles, weaving together complex food webs. And tides and currents carried nutrients across great distances, connecting ecosystems across continents. And these seas left behind thick layers of limestone, now seen in cliffs and mountains around the world, evidence of ancient reefs and shells compressed into stone. And ocean shifts also influenced climate, as large bodies of water stabilized temperatures, creating consistent environments for evolution. And fossils from these seas, from ammonite shells to massive marine reptiles, remind us that the Jurassic world was as much about water as it was about land, a planet shaped by tides and currents. The daily life of a herbivorous dinosaur, a day in the life of a Jurassic herbivore, was one of constant movement and feeding, as giants like Diplodocus or Camarasaurus needed to consume vast amounts of plants to sustain their size, and they traveled in herds, stripping leaves from trees, crunching ferns, and trampling vegetation underfoot. And their social structures may have offered protection from predators, while their long necks allowed them to feed both high and low, accessing a variety of plants and migrating in search of food and water was essential, as no single area could sustain them for long. And fossilized trackways reveal their daily paths, herds moving together in coordinated groups. And their lives were shaped by the constant balance of energy intake versus risk of predation. And though massive, they were not invincible, but their cooperative strategies made them successful survivors in Jurassic landscapes. The fossil record. As a time machine, every fossil from the Jurassic period is a fragment of a vast story, preserved in stone for millions of years, and together they act as a time machine, allowing scientists to reconstruct entire ecosystems, behaviors, and evolutionary paths. And bones, footprints, plant impressions, and amber combine to form a mosaic of life that transports us back to an era of giants and pioneers and advances in technology. Now let us scan fossils in 3D, analyze microscopic details, and even uncover ancient proteins, pushing our understanding further than ever. And the fossil record is not just a collection of relics, but a living archive, whispering secrets of Earth's past. And through it, the Jurassic comes alive, revealing not just what creatures looked like, but how they lived, moved, and interacted, giving us an irreplaceable window into a vanished world of extraordinary wonder. The dawn of early mammals, wild dinosaurs, captured the spotlight. Small mammals were quietly surviving and evolving in the shadows of the Jurassic world, adapting to niches the giants left unfilled. And these early mammals were tiny, often larger than mice or rats, but their sharp teeth and agile bodies made them skilled insect hunters. And fossil evidence shows they were mostly nocturnal, scurrying through underbrush or burrowing into the ground for safety, and they fed on insects, seeds, and small reptiles, avoiding direct competition with dinosaurs, and their warm-blooded metabolism gave them endurance and adaptability. And though insignificant compared to the towering sauropods, they represented resilience and survival, a lineage that would one day outlast the dinosaurs themselves. And in the Jurassic, their story was one of patience, evolution, and waiting for the right moment to rise. The role of ferns and cycads. Ferns and cycads were some of the most important plants of the Jurassic period, covering vast stretches of land with green carpets and thick groves, and they thrived in the warm, humid climate, spreading spores and seeds that ensured rapid growth and survival. And herbivorous dinosaurs depended on them as staple food sources, stripping entire groves bare during migrations. And these plants could recover quickly, making them reliable in an age of hungry giants. And cycads, with their tough leaves and unique cones, were among the earliest seed plants to dominate landscapes, and they provided structure to ecosystems, shaping both ground-level and mid-level vegetation. And, though overshadowed by towering conifers, they were crucial building blocks of Jurassic life. And fossils of these plants give us snapshots of the lush worlds dinosaurs once walked through. Green kingdoms beneath prehistoric skies. The climate stability of the Jurassican, like many other periods in Earth's history. The Jurassic was marked by relatively stable and warm climates, creating predictable environments where life could flourish and diversify. And this stability allowed ecosystems to thrive, reducing the likelihood of mass extinctions. And forests stretched across continents. Deserts were less severe, and shallow seas connected distant lands, ensuring biodiversity and consistent rainfall. Nurtured vegetation, while warm oceans prevented extreme temperature swings. And this balance gave rise to the age of the giants, allowing sauropods, pterosaurs, and marine reptiles to reach record-breaking sizes. And though volcanic eruptions and local disruptions occurred, the overall climate stability was a blessing for evolution, fueling one of the richest periods of diversity in Earth's history. A golden age where life spread in every direction. The role of ammonites in the season. Ammonites, coiled-shelled relatives of squid and octopuses, were among the most abundant and successful marine creatures of the Jurassic seas, and their fossilized shells are now found worldwide, serving as important index fossils to date ancient rock layers. And they filled oceans in staggering numbers, playing a key role in marine food chains, feeding fish, reptiles, and other predators. And their intricate shell designs reveal evolutionary experiments in buoyancy, strength, and survival, with species adapting to every available niche, from shallow waters to deep seas, and their extinction at the end of the Cretaceous reminds us of their eventual fragility. But in the Jurassic, They were oceanic icons, spirals of strength and survival that defined ancient seas, leaving behind some of the most beautiful fossils ever discovered, each one a symbol of Jurassic abundance. The first birds take flight. Jurassic witnessed one of the most revolutionary moments in evolutionary history, the rise of the first birds, descendants of small, feathered theropod dinosaurs. And Archaeopteryx is the most famous of these, with wings covered in feathers, sharp claws, and teeth in its beak, bridging the gap between reptiles and birds. And these early flyers were not masters of the sky yet, but they were pioneers, gliding between trees or across open areas to escape predators. And their feathers also provided insulation, helping regulate body temperature, showing adaptation. Far beyond flight, and the Jurassic sky, already filled with pterosaurs, now welcomed the first true birds, a hint of the future evolution of flight. And every fossil of these creatures is a milestone in understanding how dinosaurs eventually gave rise to one of the most successful groups of animals on Earth, the hidden underground ecosystems beneath the surface of Jurassic landscapes. Another world existed: burrows, root systems, and underground tunnels that provided safety and shelter for smaller creatures, from early mammals to insects and lizards. And these subterranean ecosystems were crucial for survival in a land dominated by predators, and evidence of fossilized burrows shows that many species adapted to life below ground, using it for nesting, hibernation, and protection. And decaying plant matter enriched soils, fueling nutrient cycles that supported surface vegetation, and fungi played important roles in recycling organic material, linking above-ground forests. Two hidden networks of life. And though dinosaurs never lived in burrows, the underground world was essential for the survival of the small and vulnerable, reminding us that the Jurassic was not only about giants, but about countless hidden lives thriving beneath their feet. The expansion of coral reefs. Jurassic seas were home to some of the earliest large coral reef systems, which flourished in warm, shallow waters, providing shelter for fish, ammonites, and countless other marine species. And these reefs stretched across vast coastlines, forming ecosystems as rich and vibrant as modern coral reefs. And they stabilized coastlines, supported biodiversity, and became hubs of life where predators and prey gathered. And fossils of Jurassic coral reveal structures remarkably similar to those of today, proof of their ancient resilience. And reefs were essential to marine food webs, acting as nurseries for young creatures, while predators hunted along their edges. And though many reefs disappeared due to shifting seas, their legacy remains in fossilized limestone cliffs, which once were teeming coral gardens, vibrant with life and energy, forming some of the planet's earliest underwater cities. The role of rivers and lakes carved across Jurassic landscapes, feeding valleys, nourishing forests, and creating freshwater ecosystems rich with amphibians, fish, and reptiles. And these bodies of water were vital resources for dinosaurs, drawing herds together to drink, hunt, and sometimes clash. And fossilized footprints preserved in riverbeds show moments frozen in time where dinosaurs once gathered, leaving evidence of herds, predator chases, and even social interactions. And lakes provided stable homes for turtles, crocodiles, and insects, forming miniature ecosystems within the larger Jurassic world. And these freshwater systems connected land to sea, carrying nutrients downstream, fueling growth across continents, and without them, giant herbivores would not have survived, proving that rivers and lakes were lifelines of the Jurassic, essential threads weaving together an age of giants and diversity. The changing skies of the Jurassic. The sky of the Jurassic was unlike today's, dominated by creatures both feathered and leathery winged, with pterosaurs soaring gracefully on wingspans ranging from a few feet to over 30 feet, and the first true birds beginning to claim their space, creating layered airways of flight, and clouds drifted over landscapes shaped by volcanoes and rising seas, carrying rains that sustained forests and valleys, and lightning storms illuminated nights where predators roamed and herbivores gathered nervously, and the air itself was rich with oxygen compared to earlier periods, fueling the growth of giant animals, and sunsets over conifer forests or vast coastlines would have been spectacular, painting skies above herds and flocks. And though we imagine Earth's skies as familiar, in the Jurassic they were wild, dynamic, and filled with creatures that defined a new era of evolution. The legacy of the Jurassic Period left behind a legacy that continues to shape our understanding of evolution, diversity, and survival on Earth. And it was an age where life spread boldly into every available niche on land, in seas, in skies, and even underground, and its ecosystems were experiments in gigantism, flight, and adaptability, laying the foundation for what would come in later periods. And fossils from this time continue to inspire awe and scientific discovery, reminding us that our planet has always been alive with creativity and resilience. And the Jurassic is remembered not only for its dinosaurs, but for its complexity, its harmony of ecosystems, and its role as a bridge between the ancient and the modern. And when we study it, we glimpse both the fragility and strength of life, lessons carried forward into today's living world. The giants of the land, the Jurassic Period, is forever remembered as the true kingdom of giants, when sauropods like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and Apatosaurus roamed in immense herds across vast plains, their necks stretching high above the trees, feeding where no other animal could reach, and their colossal bodies shaped entire ecosystems, trampling forests, creating clearings, and fertilizing landscapes with their waste. And predators like Allosaurus hunted them, though even they thought twice before attacking the largest adults. And these giants were not just marvels of size, but also of biology, with hollow bones to reduce weight and massive lungs to fuel their enormous bodies. And in the Jurassic, gigantism was not an exception, but a rule, a trend that defined the age. And walking among these creatures would have made humans feel like ants, reminding us of Earth's incredible capacity to create life at a scale that defies imagination. The evolution of pterosaurs ruled the skies long before birds perfected flight, and in the Jurassic, they reached new levels of diversity, from small insect eaters fluttering over rivers to giants with wingspans stretching longer than a car, and their membranous wings, supported by elongated fingers, made them masters of gliding and soaring. And fossils show that they had coverings for insulation, hinting at warm-blooded metabolisms, and they hunted fish, scavenged carcasses, and even stalked prey on land. And some species evolved elaborate crests, perhaps for display or stability. And though they shared the skies with the earliest birds, they were unmatched rulers of aerial dominance. And in the Jurassic world, looking up would reveal a living tapestry of wings and forms, creatures that blurred the line between reptile and bird, setting the stage for the incredible diversity of flying life to come, the hidden insect world. Though dinosaurs and reptiles capture most of the glory, insects were quietly shaping the Jurassic environment, pollinating plants, breaking down organic matter, and forming crucial links in food webs. And dragonflies, beetles, and early flies buzzed across forests and lakes, feeding birds, mammals, and amphibians. And their presence ensured that ecosystems thrived, for without insects, the cycle of nutrients would have collapsed. And some species grew larger than their modern relatives, benefiting from oxygen-rich air, while others evolved new adaptations for survival. And though they seem small compared to the titans of the age, insects were indispensable architects of Jurassic life, keeping forests alive, soils rich, and ecosystems balanced. And the buzzing of their wings was the background music of the Jurassic, a quiet but constant reminder that even the smallest creatures can sustain entire worlds. The ocean, predators, while land was ruled by dinosaurs, the seas of the Jurassic were no less dangerous, filled with monstrous predators like pliosaurs and ichthyosaurs, sleek and powerful hunters built for speed and strength. And these creatures hunted ammonites, fish, and even other marine reptiles, turning oceans into arenas of constant survival. And the pliosaurs, with massive jaws filled with dagger-like teeth, were among the most fearsome carnivores to ever live, rivaling even the greatest land predators. And ichthyosaurs, shaped like dolphins, dominated open waters with agility and grace. Birthing, live young in the sea, and their fossils tell stories of violent struggles, where tooth marks, scarred bones, and shells, evidence of relentless predation. And the Jurassic seas were as dangerous as the land, reminding us that the struggle for dominance was universal, and no part of Earth was free from the jaws of evolution. The role of volcanoes. Volcanoes shaped the Jurassic world in ways both destructive and creative, spewing ash that buried forests, but also releasing minerals that enriched soils for future growth. And their eruptions carved landscapes, split valleys, and sometimes triggered mass die-offs in local regions. But they also created new habitats where life quickly rebounded, and volcanic activity contributed to the greenhouse climate of the time, filling the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and keeping Earth warm. And vast lava flows created rocky plains, later colonized by ferns and conifers, proving life's resilience. And fossils preserved in volcanic ash give us stunningly detailed snapshots of Jurassic organisms, frozen in time. And though destructive in the moment, volcanoes ensured constant renewal, reminding us that creation and destruction often walked hand in hand during Earth's long story of life. The rise of conifers dominated the Jurassic landscapes, towering trees with needle-like leaves that formed the backbone of ecosystems, offering food, shelter, and stability. And their massive forests spread across continents, resisting drought and thriving in diverse conditions. And dinosaurs, like Brachiosaurus, reached into their canopies for nourishment, stripping branches bare, while smaller creatures nested in their shadows, and the resilience of conifers ensured they remained dominant for millions of years, long before flowering plants evolved, and they stabilized soils, helped recycle carbon, and shaped climate patterns, and fossilized cones, and would provide evidence of their importance. And walking through a Jurassic conifer forest would have been like stepping into a cathedral of green pillars, silent, towering, and eternal, the guardians of an ancient world that nurtured life on a grand scale. The dance of predator and prey. The Jurassic was a constant battle between predator and prey, a never-ending dance that shaped evolution and survival. And apex hunters like Allosaurus honed strategies to bring down massive herbivores, relying on teamwork, speed, and ambush, while sauropods developed sheer size as their best defense, and stegosaurs grew plates and spikes for protection. And every adaptation sparked a counter-adaptation, an arms race of survival played out daily across plains and forests, and fossilized injuries on bones tell us of battles fought and sometimes lost, with scars of teeth marks and healed fractures. And this struggle drove diversity, shaping behaviors and body plans. And in the Jurassic, no creature was entirely safe, for the balance of nature demanded constant conflict, a deadly yet vital rhythm that pushed evolution ever forward, fueling the dynamic story of life. The shallow inland seas, large portions of Earth, or in the Jurassic, were covered in shallow inland seas, warm and nutrient-rich waters that supported vast ecosystems of ammonites, fish, and marine reptiles. And these seas connected distant coastlines, allowing species to spread and diversify. And sediments deposited in these waters preserved countless fossils, creating rich geological records we study today. And coral reefs thrived in these environments, acting as cradles of biodiversity, while storms and tides constantly reshaped shorelines. And these seas also left behind limestone deposits that we quarry today, ancient remnants of vanished oceans. And without them, Jurassic life would have been far less diverse, for they were highways of evolution and survival, bridges between continents, and sanctuaries of life that defined the very fabric of Jurassic Earth. The importance of fossil discoveries. Our knowledge of the Jurassic comes from fossils, ancient remains, and imprints, preserved for millions of years, telling stories of creatures and ecosystems long gone. And each discovery adds a new piece to the puzzle, from skeletons of towering sauropods to delicate impressions of ferns and insects. And fossilized footprints reveal behavior, herds walking together, predators stalking prey, and nests show us that dinosaurs cared for their young, while amber preserves tiny insects in stunning detail, like time capsules of the past. And fossils not only teach us about evolution, but also connect us emotionally to Earth's history, sparking wonder and curiosity. And without them, the Jurassic would remain a mystery, a forgotten chapter. But with them, we can almost walk alongside giants, seeing their world through stone-etched memories. The Jurassic legacy in today's world. Though the Jurassic ended long ago, its legacy lives on in the descendants of its creatures and the landscapes it shaped. And modern birds are living reminders of feathered dinosaurs that first took to the skies in this era, while reptiles like crocodiles trace their roots back to Jurassic ancestors, and plants such as conifers still dominate forests today. survivors of ancient ecosystems, and even geological features like limestone cliffs and fossil beds are Jurassic gifts, remnants of shallow seas and thriving coral reefs. And studying this period helps us understand resilience, adaptation, and survival, lessons that remain relevant in today's changing climate. And the Jurassic reminds us that life is always evolving, that giants may fall, but new forms rise, and its echoes are all around us, all around us.